Damn, Gary, some serious gourmet. What flavor is this?
That's right, it's the all-hell medium roast private blend.
Check out the Geek Grind Coffee Nerdrotic page for our other options like the Decadent, Feathers of Liberty, vanilla-infused flavored coffee.
Or if you're looking for something darker, try the dark roast FNT blend of the Fellowship. You know what? Just buy all three. GeekGrindCoffee.com. Use discount code Nerdrotic.
Nerdrotic.com.
Welcome, travelers, to the fringes of reality, where the strange and mysterious meet, and the thin veil between fact and fiction is torn. Welcome to the Forbidden Frontier.
Welcome to the Forbidden Frontier. We are continuing our either supercut of edits or individual. Depends on how you see them and where you see them. We're moving to Rumble soon, and we are honored to have an actual doctor here. Somebody's been to school and finished it. I can't say that. No, we have Dr. Malcolm LeCompte.
Take 2 aspirin, see me in the morning.
Thank you. It's the best advice I've ever gotten. It's the only one that works, to be honest with you. You are an astrophysicist or cosmic?
Planetary physicist.
Planetary physicist, sorry. Didn't mean to get your credentials wrong. My bad.
Not at all.
So,
the department was Astrophysical Planetary Science. So that's the current name. It changes from time to time.
It changes from time to time, but the science stays the same, kind of.
Science stays the same.
Hey, whatever pays the bills, man. It's all good. Yeah. So what kind of work have you done? It's broad, but in the field, you've worked in archaeology now? You've been at digs.
I usually work in support of archaeologists.
Okay.
And providing various services. Sometimes I do ground penetrating radar. That's a different skill set and different interpretive skill set. Mainly, I'm involved in analysis of soil sediment for the presence of extraterrestrial impact proxies, we call them, which is evidence of an impact. So that's my day job, effectively.
That's a good day job. That's kind of cool. Takes you places.
A lot of dirt in the house.
Yeah, I bet. It's like, why bother cleaning at that point? So I want to talk about one particular dig. A mutual friend of ours, we'll just leave it at that. A mutual friend of ours has talked about, and we've talked about it on Forbidden Frontier, and you were there. And 4 times. So it's Jordan, Tel El Hammam, not tell your mom.
Right.
And there is evidence there that there might have been an airburst, possibly. Is that the current theory?
Yeah. It may have actually been a crater-making event, but we have no evidence of that at this point. We have some really interesting melted material that's in the general vicinity that's been discovered, but there's no provenance for it, so it's hard to link one to the other, except that it's there and in the generally right direction where we'd expect it to be. So that helps. It's all circumstantial, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. But the evidence that's at the site and in the periphery of the site, surroundings, that's where we've really investigated. That's where we find the evidence of an airburst event. High temperatures, large shock, debris that's kind of suspended in a destruction matrix that you'd expect. If it was an earthquake, it'd be on the floor, right?
Yep.
This stuff is in the air, effectively. In other words, it's in the destruction matrix. Everything that was blown in one direction is suspended in midair. If you peel it away little by little, there's very little stuff on the ground. It's suspended in the destruction matrix. So that kind of implies a shock wave coming through, a compression wave coming through, and kind of obliterating everything in its path.
Yeah, I saw some of that evidence. It is crazy. So talk to me a little bit about what was the one thing that melted?
There was pottery on the top of
yes.
the. This is my favorite thing. Apparently, a pottery bowl or a vase of some sort, and we got a portion of the rim and found in it inclusions in the matrix of the pottery that had been melted that implied temperatures exceeding 2,000 degrees. So.
Which is not something that can happen in a fire, like a normal fire, or an attack,
pottery,
or making pottery,
glazing pottery, or any kind of a fire, military derivative fire, Greek fire, something like that, launched at you. Not going to produce those kinds of temperatures. It exceeds just about anything except what you can produce today industrially.
That's insane, but I mean, it's also...
It's, 1,600 years BC, so...
Yeah.
More or less.
And what we're finding out is these things probably happened a lot more than we thought they did.
That's what got me into the business, was into this activity, into the research, was this notion that the estimates of the frequency of these events is rarer than it appears to be. For example, we talked a lot about Tunguska, or Randall Carlson talked a lot about Tunguska, did not mention the Rio Caruca event in the middle of the Brazilian jungle, another out-of-the-way place that was, based on current estimates, wouldn't appear to be as destructive as Tunguska, but if you look at the accounts, may have been every bit as destructive, if not more.
When did that happen? I remember hearing about that. When did that happen?
1930.
1930. So and
it's
again, middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And there's accounts for it.
Yeah.
God, I totally completely forgot about that one. We're going to have to look into that one, Jamie.
Yeah. Duncan Steele's done a good account of it. But the reports from the site say that there's a crater a kilometer across. I haven't had that confirmed, but that's the report. So that's bigger than Tunguska.
Yeah, it is.
Lower and more destructive. But they say that the jungle, and this is a wet jungle, just burned, and people thought it was the end of the world.
Yep, just like in Tunguska.
Yeah, yep. Same
just like in Peshtigo, although that was a fire. We don't know what caused the fire, though. Randall loves to talk. I was just watching Randall's old documentary, Fire from the Sky. It's really good. It's really good. The information's still good on it. They talk about the Chicago fire and the Peshtigo fire and how he thinks it might have come from the sky. That's all. It's a theory, but so the frequency. Randall talked about it, the Russian meteor in 2013, and that woke me up to it. And the thing that stuck with me was the sound wave, like how long it took when you saw the explosion. It was a good 15 or 20 seconds, then blew out windows.
Yep.
So now I know if I ever see something like that, get the hell away from a window, and you have about 10 or 15 seconds.
Well, same with a nuclear bomb.
Yep.
The one thing you don't want to be in front of is a window.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't want to be around a nuclear bomb, but
that's true.
But the frequency, like this could happen at any time, and it should be kind of the most important thing. Like what you're doing and trying to find this out should be brought to governments, and this should be a major concern, like our biggest concern.
There's an astronaut, trying to think of his name now, having many senior moments this weekend.
All right, me too.
But there's an astronaut who's got something called the B612, I believe it's called, organization that the idea is to launch measures to prevent, at least detect, if not prevent, incidents of this kind, events of this kind. Yeah. Yeah,
because as Randall spoke about, and I'm sure you guys have talked about too, it's not the big ones we can see coming. It's the little ones.
Yeah.
That one from 2013 was following a bigger meteor that they were tracking. Remember, it went by the day before, and this thing was just behind it. You know, couldn't see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a big concern. So what kind of proxies are you finding in Jordan?
Well, the first one that got my attention was the microspherals, the magnetic microspherals. And what makes them interesting is that you can see small spherules made of metal, typically iron, in the soil. They're very common. They're made by microbes. There's a variety of processes that produce these microspherules. But if you have an electron microscope, you can see the crystallization patterns that suggest what had happened was that they were melted. They were vapor. Imagine, instead of rain, you've got molten metal raining out of the sky. These little droplets that are about, say, the width of the diameter of a human hair, and they're dropping out of the sky like rain. And that's how you date them, is you find the strata, and then you date the strata. And that's why I hang around archaeologists, because they usually have the dated strata. So they help me date the time of the event. And the iron microspherules were in a molten state. They begin to crystallize. The crystallization process may be interrupted by the fact that there's effectively freezing them in a certain state of crystallization. The anthropogenic spherules that we make in factories and all, some have those, but then you separate the ones that are industrial, anthropogenic, by the depth they're at. If they're depth sealed, so that you wouldn't get something from contemporary processes, then you know you've got, most likely it's an impact event. So you look for an enrichment in spherules. Sometimes you look for an enrichment in what we call platinum group elements, iridium, platinum, osmium, all indicators of possible. They're frequently compositionally more in extraterrestrial objects than in the Earth's crust. Down the deeper mantle and core, you have this stuff, but up near the crust, no, you don't see that unless it's a vein that is kind of anomalous. So that's another one. Melt glass is one of the key things. That's what I really look for today in my work. The spherules are kind of, they're great, but they're problematic. There's other processes that produce them. But melt glass, that's harder to explain, especially if you find like quartz inclusions, because then you're driving the temperature of these regular sediment, aluminosilicate glass, like you find at the Trinity site or any nuclear bomb that turns the sediment into glass, tends to be a little bit lower temperature. Aluminosilicate's probably of the order of 1200, 1400 C. I'm talking C now, not Fahrenheit. If you have these quartz inclusions that melt at 1700 C, then you're pushing the temp, and they boil at like over 2000 degrees, then you're pushing the temperature up into a region that at these times, Bronze Age and prehistory, there's no process other than an impact or lightning that will produce them. And lightning has its own limitations. It doesn't have the widespread fields of a layer that you can associate with. So there are always ways to differentiate what you're looking at from the alternative hypothesis.
And I don't know how much lightning is there in Jordan. Do they get?
I'm sure they get some, but not on the scale that we're finding this stuff.
Well, thanks to the Comet Research Group, I think a lot of more in my sphere, they're called normies, people who just kind of go about their day and go to work and kind of pay attention to the news and don't know. But thanks to Randall and Joe Rogan and guys like you, now more people know what microspherules are.
Not guys like me, because I'm usually
you're behind the scenes, but this stuff is still getting out. And you're doing the work. By it is guys like you.
Guys like Joe, and we get asked questions by them, and that's how it gets out, I guess.
Yeah.
And George. This conference.
George Howard is a brilliant guy, a fun guy. This is the most rock and roll conference like this I've ever been to. It's really fun. No, but thanks to your work and Joe getting it out and Randall getting the word out, more people than ever know what a microspheral is and melt glass and proxies. I didn't know what any of this stuff was.
Yeah.
And
it's in your backyard. I mean, you go down, you'll find it. If you have the right equipment to, process it and know how to process it and find it, it's there. Depending on what.
Don't get me started. I'll start
digging holes in the backyard.
In my backyard. My wife will be all, "What the hell are you doing?" But thank you for all your work, and thanks for coming on. You were on Joe Rogan. I don't think we want to briefly, but you were there.
Yeah.
You were the help call.
Yeah, the call a friend,
Call a friend.
phone a friend. Yeah.
Yeah, you were it. You did a good job. So I appreciate you coming on and taking the time, and have a good conference. And we'll see you soon. Take care, my friend.
Thank you.
By the way, we're talking to Hugh Newman from Megalithomania. This is a channel I've been subscribed to forever. He does great work with J.J. Ainsworth, your partner, and Andrew Collins. And he's done work with Graham Hancock and Jim Vieira in Search of Giants, that show, which I loved. I wish it got multiple seasons, but it didn't. And he's written many books, including this one. These are great books, by the way. I have one myself. He also does tours. Welcome and thanks for coming to talk to us here. My name's Gary, by the way, from Forbidden Frontier and Nerdrotic. I mostly talk about pop culture, but my other side gig is like getting into ancient civilizations. And you are one of the best, in my opinion.
Thank you.
All right. So
let's do it.
First thing I wanted to ask you about is giants. Sorry.
Giants. That's all I've been talking about.
You can't get away from giants. Here's the weird thing. So I grew up in Southern California, and I could see Catalina almost every day on a clear day. Catalina. We never had any clue there was Native Americans there. There was any bones dug up there. Until I started watching your show. I heard about. I always want to call him Gideon, but it's Ralph Glidden. We heard a little bit about him, but we just thought it was just bullshit. Can you tell us a little bit about that journey?
Catalina Island, oh my God, that is like the giant island of America. It's insane. I went there with Jim. We went out, we did a kind of trip out there. We made some videos about it. We met a Native American, kind of one of the few remaining on the island, a young lad. He's in his like 20s. And he was just about to move off the island. We sort of met him, chatted with him, and he gave us all these stories that we didn't even know, beyond Ralph Glidden. But I think, if people aren't aware, Catalina Island, this is where hundreds of skeletons were found. This was like an amateur archaeologist, Ralph Glidden, back in the early 1900s. He set up a sort of weird museum made of bones and skulls.
Yeah.
But he found a ton of stuff there. He found like 8-foot skeletons, 9-foot skeletons, all these giant kind of artifacts. Some of them you can see in the museum, actually, but if you go over there. And it's just shrouded in mystery. But if you go back to like the 1500s, when the Spanish people were going over there, the travelers coming in from Europe and everything, they found a giant stone circle on Catalina Island, apparently. It was huge. And not big stones, but fairly big stones in a circle, and it got completely destroyed by the clergy of the Spanish kind of Christians, as did the whole culture pretty much. But yes, so there's some weird stuff. Also on Catalina and on the other Channel Islands, a whole bunch of discoveries have been made. It's really, really strange. Some of the oldest skeletons in America as well.
Yeah, and like it's not really connected, but I remember Randall Carlson talking about there's also younger Dryas evidence on Catalina Island of the fires. They've found stuff there. So again, we just thought it was this unassuming island that rich people went to and to sail around. I had no idea it had this history, and it just kind of blew me away, and I loved it. And I dug further, and there's giant accounts from San Diego, all over California. Before we move on, what's your theory? Because this is such a weird mystery. It's one of my favorite subjects, but it's like we haven't had really tangible evidence yet, other than finding a skull here and there. What's your theory on the Smithsonian? Do you think they're nefarious, or do you think they're incompetent, or...
Yes, both.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, no, we did a whole chapter in our book, the Giants on Record book, me and Jim Vieira, called the Smithsonian Files. And we just dove into it. We went deep research into it, and we found the kind of process of cover-up occurring. The people coming in, the kind of beliefs they had in like eugenics and racism and things like this. It was pretty dark. And also like religious ideals were coming in. There was a theory of evolution was being pushed at the time. The Smithsonian were partly behind that. And it really is it was like a series of unfortunate agendas aligning, which then created a cover-up of the giants. So not necessarily an organized conspiracy, but a kind of series of aligned kind of things that just unfortunately happened at that time. One of them was Manifest Destiny, where they were pushing through, kind of claiming, we own the land, we're superior, this nonsense, and pushing all the Native Americans onto reservations. So, so you got that kind of agenda as well. And so when they're finding skulls of 10-foot tall, super powerful individuals with these giant geometric earthworks all astronomically aligned, it doesn't fit with their theory that they're the superior race coming in. They're finding these skeletons of people bigger and more regal than they are. And so it didn't, so they had to kind of cover it up, in our opinion. That's why part of the cover up kind of maintained itself. Then you got the eugenics thing. You got Ales Hadlichka. He was like the head of the Smithsonian from the early 1900s. And he was a nightmare. He was horrible to his staff. He was racist. He would just deny the existence of giants. He'd be like the ultimate skeptic. But then he pronounced, I think it was in 1930 or so, that headline, just to put a lid on it once and for all. He put a headline out: "Giants are no more," and that was the headline. And then 2 years later, Hadlichka is at a dig in Alaska and he finds giant skeletons, and it's like, oh, they are more. They keep coming, and they did keep coming even after that. So it kind of like it made you realize that writing a book about this is a challenge. You have to kind of like dig into the accounts, but the Smithsonian themselves, in their annual reports, the 5th and 12th annual reports, the late 1800s, they are digging up and examining and documenting 7 to 9 foot tall skeletons in their own books, which they never, they were published.
Published everywhere. We had headlines everywhere, and sure, some of them were probably BS, but there was just too much out there. And what's strange to me is that cover-up continues, and we supposedly have Smithsonian members and academics who are totally against Manifest Destiny, but in a weird way, they continue the same beliefs by being against the same beliefs, which makes no sense, but it's keeping that narrative going. What's the Alaskan Boneyard guy? Fuck. He was on Joe Rogan, so he owns he's a gold miner.
Right.
God, help me with that. I'm so terrible with names.
Pull that up, Jamie.
Pull that up, Jamie. Some Joe Rogan stuff. So to your point, he's a gold miner, and he basically, there's permafrost. He melts the permafrost, and in a couple of square acres of land, he's digging up mastodon bones, just pretty much all the megafauna that died out 12,000 years ago, just hundreds of thousands of bones. He won't admit if he found people, because if he does, then that brings in archaeologists and that creates problems for his gold mine. But he had, the Smithsonian had grabbed a bunch of his bones, like before, he owned the land, but it's like the land he owned, took them to the Smithsonian and then dumped them in the East River. And he started, on Joe Rogan, he started a bone rush, and that lends credence to your, like, the massive incompetence, and they had too many bones to catalog. And maybe there was giants in there, but there was definitely, mammoth, mastodon, saber-toothed tigers, dire wolves who weren't even supposed to be in Alaska at the time, and that ended up in the East River. And now people are actually finding those bones. John Reeves.
Okay.
So look into that guy. That is a trip. But it's proof that the Smithsonian dumped stuff. Like It
doesn't surprise me. I mean, it's a very strange scenario. I mean, I went to the Smithsonian, the proper kind of museum, back in 2014, and there's nothing there. It's like nothing. It's like a bare bones of nothing. It's just nothing there, and you just realize the amount of stuff they said to have found, and yet why can't we see it? I mean, what's going on with these vaults they've got, and things like this? So you got to question it, but I think that it's a problem. But it's a similar thing around the world of different countries, but for different reasons, different ideological ideas, religion, and everything else. I mean, even at Gobekli Tepe in southeast Turkey, that's a kind of hotbed. There's like problems occurring there now because of people's beliefs and all this, that, and the other. So it's like, what is going on?
Yeah, we just heard about like who's running the site. I don't know if that's true or not, but if the World Economic Forum is behind it, it's like, oh Jesus. And that's a good transition there, because Gobekli Tepe has created an information gold rush, and it's been awesome. So, you know, I like a lot of paranormal stuff, but I think you can't, the ancient civilization stuff is so much more legitimate because you guys are out there doing some great, and it's great. Like you've been doing it for a long time, but you know, thanks to Joe Rogan and Graham being on Joe Rogan and getting a Netflix special, that's only helped you guys. Yes. And it's been great. And I think we get the most exciting stuff there. And you and Andrew Collins were prominent with Gobekli Tepe and Karahan Tepe in particular. And you were just talking about it, especially your discovery of, even with the robes, the discovery of the light hitting that face on the solstice.
Yeah.
And you got lucky on that one.
Fuck, that's amazing. Yeah, that was such a strange series of events led to that point, because there were so many. We weren't going to go, and we're going to go in January. Then we got told by an archaeologist, "Oh, you should go before January because they're going to cover it over in the winter." And then I got in trouble one night, and I was forced to go the next morning because if I turn up later, I might get arrested. So I had to go in the first thing in the morning. I had to drag JJ down there, and we turned up there, and we were like, "Oh, what the hell is that blade of light doing on that head?" And that's the way we found it, because we would never. You'd never have seen it. We'd never have thought you wouldn't. It's really almost impossible to work out if, you know, the angles and everything, if you were trying to plan it, you know, like a stellarium or a program to see if that was there. You had to see it for yourself. And and it's woken us up to the fact that there's much more going on there than people realize. Because to have a precise winter solstice alignment 11,500 years ago, it shouldn't, hunter-gatherers weren't doing that.
No.
Then. You know, it wasn't happening then. So now it is happening then. You know, this is quite profound.
Well, you talked about the site possibly being painted, and I'm like, well, why not? And the Snake Brothers, I talked to them about it, like how this thing could be impossibly old. Just some of their theories on how.
Well, yeah, I mean, they got some really good points. I watched their excellent documentary that's on their YouTube channel. I commented how great it was, because they really hit some points. Because the walls that kind of in between the T-pillars, that's where all the datings come from, and they were clearly added later. Mm-hmm. So what is going on? Is everything just much older? Is this an Ice Age civilization? Is this what Hancock's been looking for then? It's glaring us in the face, but the dates aren't quite right. So. You know, there's something going on, you know. There
is, and hopefully we keep getting information. When Klaus Schmidt was there, I mean, that was great. May he rest in peace. But Karahan, one of my favorite sites. I saw this on, it wasn't your lecture. You talked about it in this lecture, but it was the lecture before at CPAC. I've gone to too many. But you talked about that there was a site under a town, right?
That is Sayburch.
Sayburch,
yeah.
And the town knew it was there and just kind of didn't want to say anything.
Yeah,
for good reason.
Well, we spoke to the family at Sayburch. This is the site where they got this rock cut kind of enclosure with this sort of panel, this narrative scene they call it, with this guy holding his part, these leopards and a bull and everything. And when we visited there, we spoke to the family. We had a Turkish friend with us who translated everything. They said they'd known about it for 100 years. You know, they'd known about it. Then officially they'd known about it since 1940. So that village has been there for over 100 years. And they kept it, but somehow they didn't damage it. They kept it in perfect condition and they preserved it. So, and it kept their homes. Now they're going to be homeless. They're going to demolish the village, give them some other location, which they don't really like. That's not near where everyone is, and that's it. And so we're actually going to do a crowdfunding thing and raise a bit of money for them, I think, because it's like we know them. They're, you know, they've become kind of, they like us more than the archaeologists, because we turn up and we're like giving them money, helping them out, promoting it. We know now it's out in the open, and we're like trying to, you know, assist them really. And they even showed us a whole underground area that no one knows about, which I'm supposed to keep quiet really, but and there's a whole underground area just next to Sayburch. You go down these steps and there's 2 levels. It's like an underground city, but a small one, like an underground village, and there's more in that area as well that, you know, can't be talked about at the moment, because there's still, it's really strange. You can't like just go there and like make discoveries and openly do it, because the authorities start getting involved. It's a bit like Egypt, like that. But there's so much more coming out. I mean, it's still, remember, there's like at least 12 of these sites. Now they're saying there's 38 of them, and they're all buried. So they're preserved, waiting to be exposed. So it's like I call it a super civilization because it's just massive and it stretches to other countries. It's not just one area.
Oh, and super civilization's the key word there. Yeah. Comes out of nowhere. Guys just woke up one day and said, I want to carve T-pillars. I want to learn how to carve in relief. I'll invent math and astronomy and paint and let's go. It just none of it makes any sense. But like these sites are huge. And like part of me wants to know all the truth, and part of me hates the fact that they're like displacing an entire town. Let us know when you start the GoFundMe. I'll help with that.
No, I think we're gonna. Yeah, I think that's important because these are like communities, they're like villages. They're not like rich. They haven't got money. No. They haven't got like they're just surviving. And it's like and the authorities come in and just take them out. Remove them. And give them really cheap accommodation, but they don't want to be. And so it does happen like that, and it's unfortunate.
Yep, the price of the truth. Another thing, I just watched your video on the tunnel under. This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. So they want to put a tunnel under Stonehenge.
Yeah, that's it. I live there. This is like my home area, and so basically, weirdly, only my house out of any house is the tunnel going under.
No
kidding. I'm not kidding.
I'm sorry
in
to
any
laugh.
way.
That is fucked up.
Yeah. I mean, I rent it. I don't own it, and but that's happening, and so I've got a unique perspective on this.
I guess
I'm literally the only house that's going on, and so it's a giant tunnel. It's a government operation. It's going to cost up to £3 billion, which is what $4.5 billion, and it works out as $250,000 per meter. And there's something dodgy going on here because it doesn't cost £250,000 to create a meter of tunnel.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't. And so there's something going on there. Plus, you're desecrating some seriously ancient heritage. We don't know what's deeper under the ground.
We have no idea what's and there's probably something under there.
Yeah, and we know that there's 10,000-year-old remains there, which they're going to just go through. And so I'm doing everything I can to campaign against it. That I'm involved in stonehengealliance.org.uk. People can check it out. You can sign petitions and all this stuff. And they're like, they've got a bunch of lawyers. They're taking the government and the authorities to court, challenging it, which is good. It needs to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on that road. And yes, it can get a little trafficking. There's a lot of buses going there, but a tunnel's not the answer.
No, I live on that road.
Yeah.
So I know how bad. It's not that bad. Because everyone, right, you think about it, everyone's slowing down to salute the National Temple. That's what's happening. That is all that's happening.
Yep.
Everyone is slowing down to look at Stonehenge because they're driving by it. It's like, oh, look at that. And so everyone slows down. And that's how it should be. You should slow down and salute the National Temple. You shouldn't rush past. And so it should just be left as it is. Because that view that we've had for over hundreds of years, thousands of years, that view of just being able to walk by it or drive by it and see Stonehenge will forever be gone. People take it for granted now, but people are going to miss that. You have to pay a lot of money to pay English Heritage to go inside it and have a look. So I think it's important to there's multiple reasons why it shouldn't be happening.
Agreed. And I'll never forget the first time I went there, and it was like, oh, it's like near a sheep field, and the road is so close. You don't imagine it like that from America, but it is. And then they found the stuff in the parking lot. And the sign that tells you, well, we basically don't know how they did it. The whole sign describing, going like, we have no idea. I like your idea. It was Merlin. From your book, Giants on Record is one of my favorite books. Cool. I've read it multiple times. I freaking love it. You and Jim Vieira. So you've written multiple books. You also do tours.
Yes.
You want to tell the fine people about what you guys do?
We do tours. It's basically, it helps us travel. It gets us out to these places we want to research. But also, we have real passionate megalithomaniacs. We love this stuff, and it helps fund our research as well. If we make a bit of money, it actually helps. We're completely self-funded. We don't have any funding. We don't have any support or patrons or anything like that. We have to do it ourselves. So it helps us just put it, to enable us to do our research, get out to these places, and actually, weirdly, on our tours, sometimes the participants, the guests, make discoveries and get credit in our books. It's crazy. I mean, this has happened a few times now. They've actually seen things we didn't notice, and they've actually they've got the credit in the book and the videos. That's about brilliant. It. It's crazy. So we actually especially in Turkey, because there's stuff still being discovered, and stuff turning up in museums that you haven't seen before. Things like this. I mean, there's one guy, our friend Matt Smith. He was with us in 2015. And he just had laser eye surgery in Turkey, and he was an English guy, but he'd come with us, and because his eyes were almost like bionic or something now. He just looked down and he saw something that me and Andrew couldn't see. We just couldn't see. It was too small. It was like this big. It was like down in this glass cabinet, and he with his bionic eyes, he's like, whoa, something on it. It's like carving on this little bone plaque, and it caught. And we realised it's the first ever carving of someone has depicted a man standing between two T-pillars on this tiny bone plaque.
Yeah.
And it caused this, it went viral, caused this sensation, but we just walked by it, we couldn't see it. So yes, we have people on our tours making cool discoveries. So yeah, we encourage people, if you want to see Gobekli Tepe, Karahan Tepe, all that stuff, we get access to, other sites because we know the families as well. We've become very friendly over the years with everybody there. They love us. So yeah, we do some cool stuff out there. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it certainly helps to go to these places and show people respect, and they respond to you better. And again, these guys have been on top of it for a long time. 2004 going back.
Yeah, Andrew Collins has been going there since 2004. I've been going since about 2013.
Okay.
But even then, it was still not much had been done then.
Oh, no. Yeah. I remember watching, I remember that picture you showed of Karahan Tepe. I remember seeing that.
Yeah.
Are they ever going to dig that up? And it's...
Well, that's what we thought. I mean, I've been going there for 7 or 8 years before it had been excavated, because I thought it was just fascinating. Just a few things you could see. It was really interesting. Never expected to see what has come out of there.
Yeah, that's crazy.
No way. I mean, so if that is just one site, imagine what the other 36 sites have got in store for us. I mean, it's pretty incredible.
And we'll find out, if any are older than Gobekli Tepe. So Karahan Tepe is not as old as Gobekli Tepe.
No, there's a
but
bit
it's
of
close.
It's close. Yes, the big thing. It's actually on Wikipedia that it's older, and that's not quite right. What it is Karahan Tepe it was a known hunting ground. It's like hunter-gatherers were there. So they would hang out on the hills there, and they'd drop all their tools and, do their flint knapping, all this kind of stuff. So there's evidence of people there before that, but no building until 9,400 BC, which was a couple of hundred years after Gobekli Tepe.
A long time ago. So again, Hugh Newman, Megalithomania. Subscribe to his channel. I think you got a Patreon too. You got a Patreon?
Yeah, got a Patreon. Megalithomania. Yeah.
Giants on Record, Giants of Stonehenge. He wrote those books. He's also got his Gobekli Tepe book. I have one. X-Ray Girl has one. You got one. There's the Stonehenge, Giants of Stonehenge.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
So thank you for coming on and talking to us. Hopefully we'll get you on the main channel, and I could talk to you for 3 hours if you have time, but thank you for taking the time here. I know you're super busy.
My pleasure. It's been great. Yeah, and I'd happily come on for a longer one as well. Yeah,
right on. Cheers. Cheers. Hugh Newman.
Nerdrotic.com.
Welcome, travelers, to the fringes of reality, where the strange and mysterious meet, and the thin veil between fact and fiction is torn. Welcome to the Forbidden Frontier.